If you think you have any idea how hard tree planting actually is, I can almost guarantee you that you're wrong, but don't worry because most people usually are. So let's start talking about the few things that make tree planting way harder than people are expecting it to be. When you think about the simple act of planting a tree, it sounds and actually is very easy. All you do is you dig a hole with your spade, you put the seedling in, and you close the hole. You just do that repeatedly throughout the day, a couple thousand times. It takes me like 4 seconds to plant one tree. But people tend to only really think about how easy it sounds to plant a tree and put a tree in the ground. And they don't really think about all of the challenges and obstacles that actually get in the way of it being easy. I saw like maybe 20 people in my rookie season quit. 80% of the people I see leave a planting season in the first couple of shifts is because they had no fucking idea what they were getting themselves into. Quitting as a tree planter is very different than quitting pretty much any other job that I can think of on the top of my head, and that's for quite a few reasons. Number one, it's usually quite the investment to start tree planting, especially if you don't have anything. You're buying the spade, the bags, your high vis, your hard hat, a tent, maybe a bag to put everything in, new clothing. So for you to spend so much money to gather everything that you need to start being a tree planter, only to quit within the first couple of days of doing it, you just put yourself out of so much money. Another reason, there's a very high chance that where you're planting is very far from where you live. Where I go for the majority of my season is about 14 hours north of where I live, and the other times I'm in a completely different province. Wherever you're planting, they're not going to bring you home if you decide to quit. They'll bring you to the closest town, but from there you have to make your own way home with all of your things. And that can be pretty hard when a lot of these areas, these logging areas that you're replanting these forests are in pretty small towns. So it's pretty hard for you to get back to wherever it is that you're from. Another reason, this is the big one, trees need to be in the ground by a certain time. The later into the season it gets, the less of a chance of survival that these trees have if they're not being planted. Each contract that you do, it's a certain amount of trees. So let's use one that I have done every season of my planting is the Pick River up in Northern Ontario. Let's say one of the contracts for this season, it's about 1 million trees. Your camp does not leave until those 1 million trees are in the ground, however long that it takes. So the more people quit, the longer it's gonna take for those trees to get planted, and that just means that there is a higher chance of them not actually surviving the later it gets into the year. And the last reason I'll talk about right now is because of the crew bosses. For the most part, crew bosses have the incentive of they get paid for each tree that their crew plants. There are other incentive structures and pay structures for crew bosses, but from what I've seen and from majority of what I hear, it's a crew boss will have, let's say, 11 planters. Every tree that that crew plants, the crew boss will get paid, let's say, for this example, 2 cents for those trees. So if their crew plants 30,000 trees in one day, the crew boss is going to make $600 for those trees. So the less amount of planters they have, it just means that the less amount of money they're going to make. So anyways, yeah, quitting, it's not good for anybody. That's why showing up to the season, knowing what you're getting yourself into is probably the most important thing that you could do in the couple of months leading up to it. So for this video and the one next week, I'm really going to be diving into the challenges that I have faced and that other people I know have faced when it comes to being a planter. And for this video, I'm going to be talking about the physical challenges that you are going to face. And next week, I'm going to talk about the mental challenges. I made a list of the 6 biggest challenges that each have a bunch of different moving parts with them. So let's talk about the 6 physical challenges that you are going to face as a tree planter. Number 1, starting with a banger, the fucking bugs. I'll be honest, I've actually only ever planted in Northern Ontario during the later spring months and the summer months when the bugs are really out. So Northern Ontario bugs are all that I really know. If you think you have an idea of how bad the bugs are going to be, you're wrong. I'm just going to tell you that right now. Nothing could have prepared me for how horrible they actually are. You've got mosquitoes, black flies, horse flies, deer flies, wasps, hornets, bees, fucking anything that flies and bites, they're out there and they're waiting for you. They get in your eyes, your ears, your mouth. They are constantly buzzing, so that's all that you actually hear during the day. I usually can only plant if I have headphones or music playing, but I can always hear the fucking buzzing over the music. The bugs are probably, in my opinion, the toughest challenge to face. And the worst part about it is that the seasons that I usually plant in, we start pretty early in May. There's always a couple weeks where they're not out and they're not that bad. And then you're kind of in your head like, oh, this isn't Armageddon. So this isn't so terrible. And then boom, you wake up one day and it's just fucking Armageddon. Anyways, number 2, second challenge is the repetitive damage that you were doing to your body, both internally and externally. Last season, I averaged 4,200 trees a day for a 58-day planting season. That was me bending over a minimum of 4,200 times every single day. Your back takes a fucking beating. Your wrists and your elbows, they face a lot of strain just from how often you are throwing your spade and opening the hole and doing the C-cut and the box cut, which I'll talk about in later videos. A lot of planters actually get tendonitis. I have somehow avoided that. And then there's your knees. Your knees probably put the most work out of anything. Honestly, your lower body is probably what puts in the most amount of work. It does not take long for you to really struggle just taking steps and to just feel this constant pain in your knees. And then the damage done externally to your body, which is probably felt and obviously seen the most. You're gonna have bruises, scratches, blisters. Your skin is gonna get so dry that simply making a fist is gonna cause your fucking skin to crack open and bleed. You usually have cuts and open wounds all over your body, and I have seen countless amount of people end up actually having to go to the hospital because these wounds get infected. So you really have to kind of prepare for the damage that is going to get done to your body. But your body gets used to it, you know? It's tough, very, very, very physically demanding of a job. Number 3, this is the one that gets people every single season. You are not planting in farmers' fields. A lot of people show up expecting easy-ish land to plant in. You know, when you think about it, you're planting in log parts of the forest. So that's all the trees have been removed and cut down, and now we're replanting it. So you think of kind of like a barren landscape with a lot of exposed soil. That's not what you're getting. The land that you are going to be in is just straight out of hell most of the time. You are constantly going to be climbing over trees, over rocks. You're going to be going uphill, downhill. There are probably going to be way more obstacles in your way than there are plantable areas. You'll be in swamps and bogs so that every single step that you take, you're just going to be sinking into the ground. There's overgrown corridors, rocks, roots, rock caps, thorn bushes, slash piles, you fucking name it, it's out there. Every day you're going to be brought to a different kind of land, and majority of the time it's going to fucking suck and be very hard for you to maneuver through. There is nice land out there. I've seen it. I have planted in some of the nicest stuff that you can actually imagine. You will find nice land. You will find nice trenched land where there's a lot of exposed soil, but most of the time you're going to be put into stuff that's really going to test you and is really actually just going to be physically difficult to maneuver through. And number 4, this is my favorite one, honestly. The weather is a bitch. Rain days suck. You know, there's nothing worse than waking up at 5:30 in the morning and you can just hear rain hitting your tent, and you know that that rain is not going to stop all day. So you are just going to be planting soaking wet, water filling your boots, water getting into your eyes. You're just going to be in that for the entire day. Your body is just sore from being wet. Every step you take, there's just water being pushed up into your feet. Suddenly you have trench foot, which sucks. The rain is filling your bags with water, which is only making them heavier. And the worst part is you're in log forest, so there's no shelter. There's no relief from the rain. You're kind of just in it. But then on the flip side, you have planting in the sun. When you're planting in the heat, even if you're mentally driven and you're locked in and you just want to keep going, your body just kind of fails you. Like heat exhaustion and dehydration just straight up put your body out of commission, even if you're mentally locked the fuck in. I have had muscle spasms from dehydration. You know, the only thing that you have to refresh yourself is borderline tea water because your water jugs have been sitting out baking in the sun just as long as you have. So there's no cold water or anything. There's not even remotely chilled water for you to fucking drink. Your lips are dry, your skin is burning, you're sunburnt, sweat stings your eyes. But yeah, planting in the weather can be very dangerous. It can be really tough on your body. Number 5, this is one that probably not a lot of people think about, but I definitely wanted to talk about it. That's your nutrition. It is really hard to not eat in a calorie deficit as a tree planter. When you're out there, you're probably burning anywhere upwards of 8,000 to 12,000 calories in a day. It's kind of really hard to keep up with that, especially it doesn't even matter if you're cooking for yourself or you're being cooked for. That is a lot of food that you are trying to take in. And the thing with food is that when you're out there planting, you're out there sometimes 9-10 hours from the moment that you leave. I'm not saying that you're planting that long, but from the moment that you leave camp to the moment that you get back to camp at the end of the day, 10 hours may have passed. And majority of that time, you're gonna have the bags on planting. A lot of people don't actually take the time to eat during the day. They don't want to take a break, right? Because it's piecework. The more trees you plant, the more time you spend planting, the more money you're gonna take home. So a lot of people just refuse to take lunch breaks. You know, maybe they're just so locked in, they don't even realize they're hungry. Maybe they're pushing for a new new personal record, but a lot of the time, and it's happened to me more times than it hasn't, you finish the day and realize that you barely ate anything. If you just don't eat enough, or you just eat the wrong things, then your body is going to feel that. You are just going to feel tired and fatigued while you're trying to plant. Number 6, the last one, your rest isn't really going to be that great. When you're tree planting is a workout, and when you're somebody who works out a lot, rest and recovery are very big. Majority of tree planters live in a tent, and whether or not they have just a sleeping bag and some blankets to sleep on, or they have a mattress or a cot, usually your sleep's not going to be the greatest. You're in a tent, and especially at the beginning of the season, it's fucking cold. You're outside, you're surrounded by other people in their tents, so there's a lot of noises that are going to either keep you awake or just wake you up once you've already fallen asleep. It's really hard to just get a good rest. So this is something that you'll have to prepare for. I am somebody who goes to sleep as early as I possibly can to try and get as much sleep as possible, but I think sleeping and your rest is a really big challenge, especially if you're somebody who sleeps in a tent. But yeah, this job, it is very physically demanding, but like I said before, your body does kind of get used to it. You know, the rain days start to suck a little bit less every time you have one. This sounds crazy, but you do kind of get used to the bugs, especially if you have your own little strategies to kind of, you know, counter them. A lot of people will wear bug nets, will have headphones in to drown out the buzzing. That is something that you do kind of get used to. Your body stops being as sore, you stop getting blisters. So the physical challenges are mostly for the beginning of the season. And look, did I miss some physical challenges in this video? Absolutely. I'm sure that there are a lot of things that other people find challenging that maybe I don't. I was looking at my own experiences and talking to a couple of my friends from the industry and other people and what was challenging for them. There's probably a lot of things that I missed, especially for people out, let's say in BC, where the job is harder and there are more quality specifications. There's probably some physical elements of the job out there that we don't really experience in Ontario or out east that I'm not going to know of and I'm not going to talk about in this. I just really wanted to talk about a few of the things that I struggled with when I was planting. But anyways, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, whatever kind of support you're willing to show. I really appreciate it. You know, I've got a whole bunch of crazy ideas for when the season starts. I've got about 7 months of planting lining up, and that's pretty much every day is going to be filled with footage and content to share with people and to show people what it looks like. But anyways, I got a video coming out next Friday talking about the mental challenges, so look out for that one. And in the meantime, 2 steps tree, baby, don't forget.